What's up everybody, it's Sean here and I'm here today to give you a review of the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation collaboration with Kith and New Balance on this 998 Broadacre City in the Apricot and Chutney colorways. Frank Lloyd Wright was one of the most iconic and recognizable architects to ever live. And Broadacre City was a futuristic urban planning concept in which Wright envisioned people to live on a smaller scale among farms and forests, connecting with the land and connecting with each other. So as part of this concept, he created a bunch of sketches and designs. So for this collaboration with Kith and New Balance, Ronnie Fogg drew inspiration from those sketches and designs, creating two colorways of the New Balance 998. So I managed to grab both of these pairs through the raffle on the Kith app on April 17th, and they retailed for a price of $220 US each, or 295 Canadian dollars. And there's set to be an online newbalance.com release on April 24th as well. So for those that missed out on this Chutney pair, these are going to be releasing again, but this Apricot pair, it could be a Kith exclusive, but don't quote me on that just yet. So both of these pairs are made in the USA, and the official colorway for this Chutney pair is beige and chutney, whereas this one is aloe wash and apricot buff. And the style codes for this shoe for the Apricot pair is U998KT1, and for the Chutney pair, it's U998KH1. So first things first, here's a quick look at the box. So this comes in a custom box just for this release. The bottom half of the box is done in this natural cardboard finish, and we have a Frank Lloyd Wright logo on the bottom right hand corner. And then for the lid of the box, this is a reproduction of Frank Lloyd Wright's Broad City Acre sketch. So you can see how the colors of this sketch really influence the colors of both pairs of the 998s. So taking a deep dive into the details of both of these shoes, you'll see on the toe box, this is covered in this herringbone style mesh. Surrounding the front toe cap, for the Apricot pair we have this shaggy long-haired suede which is done in this pale orangey red tone. Whereas for the Chutney pair, this is much more of a flatter suede and it's actually a pig suede, and this is done in more of a burnt red finish. Above this, covering the U-throat of the shoe, for both pairs we have suede. So for the Chutney pair, this is more of a pink tone, whereas for the Apricot pair, it's more of a beige color. Moving downwards, covering the mid panel of both shoes, so they basically swap textures. For the Apricot pair, this time we have more of a flatter suede in this mint green tone, and the top three eyelets are constructed out of TPU in this reddish orange color. And then in the middle, we have the New Balance N logo, which is constructed out of a white leather in the middle with a secondary layer underneath in green. When you contrast this to the Chutney pair, so the mid panel here is done in a shaggy suede, and just like the other pair, we have this burnt red TPU for the top three eyelets, and then the New Balance N logo on the lateral side is constructed out of white leather with a backing of pink underneath. Interestingly enough, they gave us different colored New Balance N logos on the medial side. So for the Apricot pair, it's done in orange with a backing of tan underneath, whereas for the Chutney pair, we have this pink colored leather with a backing of a darker pink underneath. Moving downwards, we have this TPU overlay, which gives you added structure and support for the sides of the shoe. And then surrounding the top portion of the ankle collar area, we have a very dark green mesh on the Apricot pair and a bit of a lighter shade of green on the Chutney pair. And then surrounding the back of the shoe, for the Chutney pair, we have this pale olive colored suede, which again is done in more of a flatter suede finish. And we have this brown colored suede right above this, and we have a New Balance logo embroidered at the top in red. Compare this to the Apricot pair. So the bottom of the heel is covered in this shaggy long-haired suede in a lighter green, and the embroidered New Balance logo here is done in yellow. As far as the laces go, so these come with 3 different lace options each. The standard and default lace, and the one that I prefer, are these normal flat style laces done in this off-white or sail color, but they also give you a secondary pair of flat white colored laces, along with a rope style lace as well, if you want to really shake up the look of your 998s and give it more color and character. Underneath this, we have the same mesh that we saw on the toe box covering the bottom half of the tongue. And then the top of the tongue is covered in pig suede. So for the Chutney pair, we have a brown colored suede and we have 998 New Balance made in USA branding embroidered in tan. Whereas for the Apricot pair, we have more of a gold colored suede and we have that same embroidery here as well. The back of the tongue and the interior of the shoe is lined in this olive green colored textile. And then taking a look at the insoles, so these come with these custom branded insoles featuring the sketches by Frank Lloyd Wright. And just like any other 998, this insole is completely lined in foam and it gives you a decent amount of cushioning. So the upper of both 998s sits atop this full-length absorbed foam midsole, and they're both painted in this off-white or sail color on the back half and white on the forefoot. And for this version of the 998, supposedly they were recrafted to look a bit closer to the originals from 1993. So specifically the heel portion of the midsole, you'll see how it protrudes a lot more outwards compared to some of the more recent 998s that have released. Either way though, so turning the shoe over to the bottom, so this outsole is constructed out of a combination of this cream or sail colored rubber along with a gray rubber hit along the forefoot. And on the medial edge in the middle, this is actually exposed absorbed foam, but it's done in this tonal finish in cream or sail. So that breaks down the look and the construction of both of these 998s. And for those wondering how these fit, so they definitely run roomy, so I would recommend going a half size down. My foot measures as a true size 10, slightly on the wider side, meaning when I go to a shoe store, step on a Broadacre device, I'm actually a size 10 in between a D and an E width. So I got both of these in a size 9.5 and they fit me perfectly. If I had stuck true to size, they would have been way too long lengthwise and my feet would have been swimming in these. So unless you have a really wide foot, I feel like if you have a narrow, normal, or slightly wide foot, half size down should be the way to go. To give you guys a point of comparison, I also wear a 9.5 in other New Balance silhouettes like the 992, 993, and the 990 V3, V4, V5, and V6. And if you own, for example, a 990 V3, I feel like this shoe runs even a little bit more roomy than a typical 990 V3, which sometimes people feel fit better true to size, so you can use that as a bit of a gauge to see what size you should go for. Moving on to the comfort, so these 998s are okay from a comfort standpoint. Compared to, for example, the 990 series, I feel like these aren't as comfortable, but they still give you an adequate amount of cushioning, especially underneath the heel. With this full-length absorb, it's still a very comfortable shoe, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't have that same amount of plushness and cushioning as, for example, a 990 V3 or a V4. I felt like the forefoot area of the shoe was a little bit more firm and a little bit lower to the ground, which in ways can be similar to a 1500, but the 998 is a lot beefier and there's a ton more cushioning underfoot. It's more so how the midsole is shaped. It slightly reminded me of a 1500 in that there's a lot more cushioning on the back end of the shoe. But again, just walking around in these or running errands, they're gonna be perfectly fine, and I was personally happy with how they felt. Finally, in terms of the overall quality and the craftsmanship of both of these shoes, honestly, I was very, very impressed. Both pairs had a wide variety of materials, textures, and I felt like the quality of both pairs was very top-notch. The suede used on the shoe was extremely thick. You can just see the edges of the suede from the side. It's not your normal run-of-the-mill thin cut of suede, and they all felt very buttery and super soft to the touch. So the materials were great, and I thought the build was pretty good as well. The only minor issue I had was there were a lot of glue stains around this midsole area on one of the shoes, but I just peeled them off with my fingers and it looked fine. Aside from that though, the panels were cut and stitched on consistently, the paint job was good, so this really felt like a special, true collaboration, and I was very happy getting these in hand. So with all that out of the way now, let's toss both of these on feet, not mismatching, one at a time, and I'll show you guys how both of these look on feet. This Kith collaboration really takes me back to the golden days of New Balance, when the 997 and the 998, for example, were all the rage. This really reminds me of more of an old school collaboration, and it seems like there was a lot more thought and intention behind both of these colorways, so I gotta tip my hat to Ronnie Feig. I think both of these shoes were exceptionally well done. If I had to pick one, this is a super tough question. Initially, I was a lot more drawn to the Chutney pair, and now getting them both in hand, I think the slight edge still goes to the Chutney pair. I like the more muted tones of this shoe, and I think this would be a really good spring and fall shoe. Whereas for the Apricot pair, the colors are a little bit more random, but I like the brightness and the vibrancy of this shoe, and this one I think would look a lot better in late spring and summer. So it's really hard to choose, both are so nice, but I want to know what you guys think. Make my life easier. Let me know in the comment section down below. Between the two, which of the two do you guys prefer? If you guys like this video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. You can follow me on Instagram at esco8, follow my Twitter account at sean.go, and visit my website as well at seango.ca. So until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one.